Maybe you consider yourself a high performer, or maybe you want to be a high performer. Well, as a consultant, helping people to become high performers or to help companies to build high performing teams, I've seen hundreds of high performers, new joiners, new starties, starry-eyed rookies, all looking to become high performers and high achievers in the pursuit of getting promotions, getting a raise, and getting recognized overall. Here are the 6 worst mistakes high performing rookies make and how to avoid them. At the end, I'll also put it all together and tell you how you can become a high performer so you can get recognized and get paid for what you're worth. If you think you're a high performer, you're likely very proud of what you know. So in situations, you want to show people really how much you know, especially when it comes to talking to your managers. Now, the problem is this gives you a narrow field of vision and kind of tunnels you into thinking about just what you can and can't do in a very limited way. In worst case scenarios, this can give off the feeling that you're too good or not coachable, which is not a great trait for managers to see in employees. To avoid this mistake, you need to keep your mind open. Listen to other people's opinions, always hear them out, and only input your opinions where you think it's relevant and where you think it's going to have the most impact. As high performers, you really need to learn as much as possible and absorb as many things as you can, because that is the real secret to advancing faster than all of your peers. Now, does this surprise you? I often hear, but Ash, if I don't work hard and work overtime, how will I make my mark? Now, let me give you 2 scenarios and you can tell me what's more impressive. Person A, who works 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to get their stuff done, or person B, who works from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to get their stuff done. Assuming they both get the same amount of work done, which one would you say is more impressive? This is when you might be thinking, well, hey Ash, hang on a second. If person A works 12 hours, doesn't this person get a lot more done than person B who's only working 8 hours a day? How does that make sense? Okay, so let's forget about research for a minute and just think about just logically, okay? How productive are you really when you're working long hours? How productive are you towards the end of the day? Probably not very, right? So there's many research papers, including this one right here, that backs up the same claim that over the course of your day, your level of productivity goes down. So more often than not, the people who are working long hours are not as effective as you might think. And in fact, because of lack of rest and overstressed, throughout the end of the week, they're getting more and more fatigued, so they're even less productive. So to avoid making this mistake and to be a true high performer, you need to be as efficient as possible during the time that you're working. This will allow you to get more stuff done and differentiate yourself from everyone else. Check out this video right here that will show you how you can get more done in 2 hours than most people will get done in 8. People often think that if you say yes to everything, it shows that you're a really capable person and that you're really a high performer. The truth is that will only work out for you if you can actually produce everything on time and to a very high standard. The sad reality is that almost never happens. And instead, most people end up taking on too much work, becoming overstressed and overworked, and the worst part is they'll probably end up producing mediocre results, which means instead of being potentially seen as a high performer, you end up being seen as underperforming. In fact, one of the most common problems that high performers and high achievers face is that they're go, go, go 100 miles an hour and then suddenly burn out of nowhere. So to avoid making this mistake, you need to understand what your working capacity is and say no to all other things. In fact, saying no is like a superpower when it's done well. It can show people that you're on top of your workload, you understand your own working capacity, and if you've already built a reputation for yourself as an efficient worker, then it can really work to your advantage. Contrary to popular belief, saying no will actually gain you respect. And I'll talk more about this at the end of the video when we package it all together and give it to you as a solution to become a high performer. Over the last 10 years or so, somehow multitasking has been put on this weird pedestal that makes it seem like only the elite few will be able to do it. And so high-performing rookies end up multitasking to hopefully be seen as a high performer because they're doing that. The problem is that almost never happens. Let me illustrate. So say you have 100% of attention to give and you're focusing on one thing. How much attention can you give to that one thing? 100%, right? Now let's say you're doing 5 things. How much attention can you give to that? Quick maths, 20%, of course. And that means, by more quick maths, that each thing will take 5 times as long to complete, which is terrible. So to avoid making that mistake, you need to learn to prioritize. And check out this video, which teaches more about how you can set targets and prioritize. I'm gonna make a whole new video about prioritizing on this channel because I think that's the coolest thing and you can differentiate yourself from your peers so easily with that. So subscribe to my channel if you haven't already because you don't wanna miss that video. But for now, know you need to focus on 1 or 2 big things at a time. It makes sense that in order to be seen as being good at stuff, you need to be doing more of what you know. For example, if you're good at maths, then maybe you want to position yourself where your quick maths skills will come in handy and impress people. In working terms, maybe you're good at making PowerPoint presentations, so you end up doing a lot more of that. Problem is, what you're good at may not be the only thing that the business needs overall. So to be seen as a true high performer and accelerate quickly within the firm, you need to see and be able to identify what business needs exist and how you can potentially fulfill that. Maybe in a micro scale, just start by looking at what your team needs and what your department needs and see how you can come up with a solution for that. To avoid making this mistake of sticking to just what you know, then think bigger picture. High performers are really, really good problem solvers. So if you want to be a high performer, then make problem solving your biggest objective. And if you believe that you're already a high performer, then find out ways to learn things quickly. Look, in order to advance faster, you need to be able to pick up things like that. So learn ways to learn faster. That way you can learn things, absorb it really quickly, and put it into action straight away. And I'll talk more about this towards the end, so stay tuned. Have you ever noticed how it's always people who you think are worse than you or who are underqualified that seem to keep getting that raise, that promotion, or even that recognition? And have you also stopped to consider that you might be the one saying, well, I'll let my work do the talking? Unfortunately, that's the most common phrase that we hear from people who don't get recognized, and even if they're doing really good and hard work. And unfortunately, this happens to be many high-performing rookies that make this mistake. To avoid making this mistake of just letting your work do the talking and hoping for the best, you need to become excellent at communication skills. This is a chart that Indeed.com developed of the top traits of high performers. As you can see, the top trait, of course, is problem solving. The second, right after, is communication skills. You can't just let your work do the talking. Instead, you have to learn the best way to articulate your worth and communicate your value to the firm. So to put all of that together and really become a high performer, this is what you have to do. And this is a serious hack, so don't tell anyone. Whenever you join a new company or a new project, identify a problem or something that they're doing less effectively than they could. Then figure out a way to make that better. Once you do, then go and present it to your manager or whoever there is that makes the decisions. Okay, present the problem, then present your solution and talk about how they can potentially implement it. The good thing is this doesn't have to be the best solution. It just has to be a solution that improves on the problem they currently have. If done well, this will instantly make you look much better than like 95% of your peers. Actually, this works really, really well if you are new to the firm or the project, because you can really make your mark early on. But even if you're not new, try it out in your own team or your department right now and let me know how it goes in the comments below. From my experience, this will instantly elevate your status immeasurably and it'll make your reputation go sky high within the team and especially within the leadership teams. Now you need to follow it up with excellent communication skills. That is interpersonal skills as well as professional communication skills. The good thing is many people suck at this. So if you can boss this one, you will be seen as a high performer for sure. And good for you, I've got many videos on how you can improve your communication skills, so check out this playlist right here. The next thing you need to be good at is presenting. Most people hate public speaking. So to be seen as a high performer and to truly become a high performer, you need to start loving it. This is going to be the thing that's going to make you stand out. And it'll be the most important skill that you need when you become a manager, senior manager, director, and above. So might as well start mastering it right now, especially because then most of your time will be spent presenting at meetings or communicating with your teams. So if you master it right now, by the time you get to that level, you will be an absolute boss at it. Combine that with your high productivity and crystal clear communication skills, you will be unstoppable. And as communication skills is the most important skill you need to master, you need to figure out your style as soon as possible. That's why you need to check out this video right here that will tell you what your style is and how you can master it as quickly as possible. Once you do, you can put that into use and become a high performer in no time. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel because it's gonna help you become a high performer and boss up your life. And I will see you in the next one.